All right, guys, welcome back to the Let's Talk Ball pod. This is episode 22. It is Monday, February 3rd. We just got done watching Chelsea play this afternoon. Another exciting round of Premier League matches. But before we get into that, Spain, how are you doing?
Doing great. Had a great weekend of watching soccer. Arsenal had a massive win. Didn't do too much this weekend. Working on training on for half marathon, so did some big runs. But other than that, just kind of hung out, watched some soccer. It was pretty chilly here in DC, so just kind of chilled out. Other than that, doing well. How are you?
I'm good as well. Had a pretty chill weekend myself. Didn't do too much. I went to a restaurant down here called Mujo on the weekend. That was actually really fun. It's a Michelin star restaurant. They just got it this
Ooh,
year, so that was like a really cool experience. I can
nice.
tell you more about that afterwards, but I won't bore everyone with the details here. Um, and then I had a not so fun watching experience of soccer this weekend with Man United losing another one. But I don't think all is lost with the season. I still like the direction we're going. Just hopefully we can put some more wins in the mix in there. But before we hop into United, I do think we need to start with the big matchup of the weekend. That was Arsenal versus Manchester City. That one ended up 5-1 in favor of Arsenal. Kind of battered them. Not what I was expecting. I thought Arsenal was probably going to win, just based on the overall quality. But at the same time, I thought City was going to put up a better fight than that. What did you think as an Arsenal fan watching? I know you were excited with the result.
Yeah, very excited. We humbled City, which felt so good after how the game ended in the beginning of the season, where I thought we outplayed them, were control, had the questionable red card against Trossard. They came back, leveled the game, celebrated huge, and had all that drama at the end of the game of Holland telling Arteta to stay humble, and then them kind of fighting. Holland threw the ball at the back of Gabriel's head. So I really wanted some revenge in this game, and we got it, and it felt so good. Going into the game, I was actually really confident in us. Even though City were playing well, I thought we didn't have like the best run leading up to the game, but I saw that our team was getting healthier, and I just thought the matchup was really in our favor in terms of the midfield. At the end of our last pod, I mentioned that I thought that we'd win the midfield battle, and that would go a long way. And I really thought we dominated the midfield, especially in our press. And I think that ultimately is what overpowered City and ended up dominating the game. Probably didn't happen until the last 30 minutes, but in the last 30 minutes we really took over the game and put too much on them for them to handle, and ended up scoring five and won 5-1, and it felt amazing at home.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you guys put up a great performance, and I think that's a great observation with like towards the end of the game, it just really the City just did not have the legs or the energy to keep up with you guys. I think that's where the disparity really became obvious. It's just City, I think, have been struggling to keep up in the midfield battle, like you said, all season, and you guys have a very strong midfield. And players that excel in that part of the game, and I think that was truly the difference maker. I don't think the quality was that different up. I say that different up top. I think they have maybe more quality up top than you guys, but at the same time, you guys are a better team. And City had no way of getting the ball to Erling Haaland, the best striker in the league, because of their poor midfield and because they just don't have the full picture coming together. Versus Arsenal might have Kai Havertz, who misses a chance here and there, but at the same time, they're going to create more chances consistently because of the way that they're able to play as a team from back to front. But I think one thing I wanted to call out from this match that was awesome as a neutral viewer was you could really feel the rivalry that's formed between
Mm-hmm.
these two teams over the last like season or two. I mean, I remember seeing how the last one ended with Holland, like you said, Holland throwing the ball off the back of Gabriel's head, the stay humble comments, all this. There was a lot of back and forth between fans, with people saying Arsenal's fans are talking too much for a draw. And then Arsenal fans were complaining City's celebrating a 1-1 draw or whatever it ended up being. I think it was 2-2 or something like that. Um, and I think I love the narrative coming into the game and the fact that the game also matched the hype coming into the game. Like the energy was there. It felt like a derby match, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, it was really entertaining, and it's what the Premier League is all about. And this match delivered. A lot of games in the past, against City. Some of them have not been the most exciting. I think years past, we've been kind of at a stalemate, playing more defensive. But in this game, it really, really lived up to on the entertainment factor side. Like you said, the rivalry was really great. And it's just a fun game. I'm glad it lived up to it, and I'm glad it went in our way, obviously. But it really was just such an enjoyable time for everyone, except for City fans.
Yeah, except for the City fans. It was fun to see the discourse on social media, the trash talk, all of that afterwards as well. And I feel like we got to talk about the Arsenal youngsters, Miles Lewis-Skelly and Ethan Nwaneri. But Lewis-Skelly definitely had the moment of the match for me. I think scoring that goal in that manner, decent finish, good finish. But then just the celebration after hitting the Holland celly is honestly,
what did he do?
Was like, he did the Holland like sit down meditation. I was like, oh, nah, that's cold. That's like honestly like. I don't know what it was about it, but it just the fact that he would do that just shows everything that Lewis-Skelly is about. Like he's kind of a pit bull character. He's like doesn't care who's in front of him, doesn't care who he offends. Like he really exudes like a confidence, almost like a swagger. Like I feel like Ethan Nwaneri is good, Miles Lewis-Skelly is good. Nwaneri is more of like a silent killer to me, like more of like a timid type. But Lewis-Skelly is definitely like a braggadocious, like almost has that like rapper, like get off my back, like type energy to him. Like he definitely does not back down to anyone or anything.
Yeah, he wants that smoke. He will give it to you. He's got the bark and he will back it up. He loves the fight, and he's so, as an Arsenal fan, is so lovable, and it's so fun to watch. And other teams might hate him because of that, but that's the player, especially coming from your academy at 18 years old to do that you love to support, and you want that guy on your team. You want that guy in your corner. That's someone you will ride or die for. And he's like cemented himself as kind of almost like a cult legend in Arsenal, and like halfway into playing like so few games. He's going to be a hero for us. Yeah, go for it.
No, I was literally going to say the same thing. The word I was going to say is like doing that celebration, like probably instantly cemented him as a cult hero. Like I remember I went to a group message that I'm in and I said that was cold. He just stamped himself or something along those words. Like it was just like, that's a defining moment right there.
Just like I already mentioned it, but at 18 years old to do that, to copy one of like the biggest one of the best players in the world, who's had our number in previous seasons. And just to not back down and not care at all is great, because they got into it a little bit in the last game too. He was just phenomenal overall. He defended really strongly. There's that one ball that came in that Holland fouled him, got over the back of it, on his back, but he still like showed his strength to be able to hold him off enough to put him off from getting that header. And then the confidence to take the ball the second half when we were up 1 goal and needed another one to kill the game off, to take it, drive forward, go on his left, cut it over his right on his weaker foot and curl it in. Granted, Ortega should have saved it probably, but still, he hit it with lots of power, really good technique from his weaker foot. Just the confidence to go and do that and take the game and say, I'm going to go win it for us or go seal the game for us is awesome.
Yeah, definitely really huge to see a player like him step up and take responsibility at such a young age. And then awesome to see Nwaneri come in at the end as a sub and like score a goal like that as well. It almost looked like Bukayo Saka-esque with that left foot cutting in and finishing like that.
Yeah, I heard on another podcast, an Arsenal podcast, that I think it was a 36 pass sequence that led to the goal, and that's the longest pass sequence this season to lead to a goal. The fans were really like cheering, doing the Olays basically for every pass, which is awesome. And then Declan Rice hit a beautiful ball, first time, out to Nwaneri, controlled it, cut it on his left, and did the Saka-esque finish and just curled it into the far post side netting. Ortega didn't even try. He was completely beaten. So it's awesome for both our academy boys from the Hale End to score. This was also coming off Nwaneri getting the start in the midweek in the Champions League, scoring the game winner after we went down 1-0. He got the man of the match performance. So these two boys are really coming on the scene, stepping up. Arteta was being criticized for not playing them enough early in the season and giving them more minutes, but it looks like he's really kind of bedded them in at the right time, show them enough minutes to get them used to it, and now they're really stepping up to the plate, starting games and showing that they've got what it takes to start games and be first team players at 17, 18 years old.
Yeah, I mean that's probably everything you want to see as an Arsenal fan. Like as far as, yeah, I mean that's almost not lucky because I'm sure it was planned to bring these guys up. And like as someone that's not even an Arsenal fan, I've known about these two for maybe a year going on two now. Just from like trying to follow circles of like some of the Star Academy kids, like they've been highly touted, but like there's a lot of kids that are highly touted and don't come through and make the impacts that these two have made. And if you can create two-star players right there, I mean, that's Arsenal not set for the next like 10 years, but those are two really important players that can come in. Though you are avoiding having to put probably like 50, 60, 70, 80 million pounds into replacing or buying players for those positions because of these guys coming up. So I think you just got to be nothing but happy as an Arsenal fan seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, spending money and getting a great player is one thing, but then having them come up from your academy is just a whole another feeling of pride and love that you have for those players. And like you said, they already come in knowing the system, which is a huge advantage, and we get them in at so young. And like you said, it's saving what could be 80 million, depending on when you buy them. But like the betting in system, even though they've been in the academy and it's been a little slower coming up this year, when the second half of the season, but it's not going to take as long or have as much growing pains, in my opinion, as bringing someone from outside the club a lot of times who don't know the system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's honestly so much talent coming out of Hale End. I mean, I feel like United got Cheeto Obi Martin from you guys and Aiden Heaven from you guys. Mm-hmm. Those are two Arsenal Academy players that have come over to United in the last year. And those guys aren't even considered. I mean, Cheeto Obi Martin was probably considered like a grade A talent, but Aiden Heaven's like probably a B level talent from what I'm seeing. So crazy to think that you can have that much talent in the academy coming through, that you have like two first team potential stars, and you can still shuck away a couple, make some money off of them. And then sounds like this Max Dowman kid who's only 14 years old is like the next thing up as well. So like it's not like the pipeline's going to stop anytime soon. So good for you guys.
Mm-hmm. And I believe Per Mertesacker is the kind of running it or coach there. It was awesome to see a player like that who was so big for the club for so many years and captain to be so involved with the academy.
Yeah, that's really cool. I actually didn't realize that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A couple other things I want to touch on the game. We mentioned our midfield. I thought Declan Rice was really great in this game. He really showed why we paid $100 million for him. That first goal, he made a really nice. Actually, I think it was Trossard who pressured for the first one, but Rice played. Yeah, Trossard won the ball, and then I think Rice played the first time pass to Havertz, who then laid it off to Odegaard, and then Rice, for Havertz's miss, Rice made a really big tackle, but he was just all over the place. And he was rested in the midweek, so it's nice that he came in really fresh. But he was a big reason why our midfield was so good in the press, because he was really flying in, covering lots of ground, and led to a lot of easy chances for us high up the pitch because of his pressing. And then Thomas Partey, also playing his natural position, was really phenomenal. Didn't do anything too flashy other than like scoring, but he just sat there, read the game really well. I loved how he intercepted Phil Foden's pass for our third goal, the one he scored. And then he just kind of like ran the game. There's a slide tackle he had that he won, like knocked it off one of their players, which I really, really loved. But just having him at midfield when he's at his best makes a huge difference for our team, because he can read the game really well. He also turned out a pressure in leading to Havertz's goal. We won it. Someone played it to him, and he Kovacic tried to pressure him, but he just kind of gave him a little shoulder feint and turned and played in Martinelli, who drove, and Havertz did a overlapping run. But yeah, Partey was just really on it for the entire game and moving and controlling the game and finding the rhythm of the game.
Yeah, that's that midfield you were talking about that definitely performed better than City's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like Declan Rice is also turning into a player that's like, I feel like he's so good that like some of the stuff he does just doesn't get appreciated really anymore. Like I think he just can like kind of fly under the radar, but just consistently is always in the right place and doesn't need to do anything too flashy in order to like affect the game. Like I think he's someone that is a bit underrated in that regard.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he had 2 assists today, and no one's even talking about it. And he was just all over the pitch. Defensively, he was superb. The crosses he puts in from the corner kicks are always spot on and always like, incredible. So yeah, he's lived up to what we wanted, which is awesome. And then I also just wanted to touch on David Raya, who made some incredible saves. He had that one where you say I think Guardiola's header from like point blank range that bounced off the post, the crossbar after he saved it. And then he also had that really nice one where Savinho, I think, shot it and it went through Saliba's legs, deflected. He made it a nice little save off the deflection. Hand. Yeah, just had the balance to be able to get down was really nice because you see a lot of keepers will like fall over too early thinking the ball's going to go one way, but he stayed on his feet, got down, and just made a really nice save. And yeah, he's also just another incredible signing that we've made that's always super consistent.
Yeah, it seems like everything's kind of ticking in the right direction for Arsenal right now. I think you guys just kind of got to hope that Liverpool can slip up here and there, and you guys can kind of continue to close that gap while Saka continues to get back to health. Because I think if you can add Saka to the side as you guys are ticking, I think the sky's the limit for you. I think it'll be good for Champions League for you guys, but I'm really trying to eye the league. I really hope you guys can close the gap there.
Yeah, we can get Saka back. We'll be almost fully healthy minus Jesus. Looks like we didn't sign a striker, which is a little bit of a bummer because we don't really have a striker other than Kai. But yeah, if we can get Saka back, we're really getting into form, which I love to see, and getting back to full health.
Yeah, that was one thing I was going to mention during the United segment, but it kind of applies to Arsenal here. But it seems like you guys are really sticking to what your long-term plan is and not really trying to buy or deviate from that plan if you can't bring in whatever players, like the specific players that you want and at the prices that you agree that you're going to pay for them. It doesn't seem you guys are willing to stretch on that in order to kind of chase a Premier League title or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if there's any players out there that we really could have gotten, like striker-wise. But I agree that we could have like thrown money at anyone, but given our league position, probably wasn't worth it. But still, I just don't see there's like not that many strikers out there on the market, anyways. But yeah, we're definitely not throwing money at whoever just to like make a sign in, even though we do need a striker.
Yeah, so I guess we'll see how the season goes on. We'll see if it's something that you guys quote unquote regret down the line. But either way, I think it's like the smart move to kind of stick to your guns. Yeah. I think Liverpool is a team that does something very similar. Like they have their principles and they don't really deviate from that in the transfer window. But we can move on to United unless you have anything else Arsenal related.
No, let's move on to United.
Nice. I'll talk United real quick. Probably don't need to spend too much time here, but I think the big talking point coming into this match was Ruben Amorim went with the bold choice of starting Kobbie Mainoo as a false nine. Did not start a recognized striker in the team after Kobbie Mainoo put in a really strong performance in the Europa League, playing in the front three on Thursday. And this time he decided to play Kobbie Mainoo at the 9. And for the first 10 minutes, it looked really good. He actually got a couple really decent chances. Like within the first 10 minutes, he had a chance that slid to him in the box and he hit it, got a slight deflection and hit off the left post. And I think if that goes in, that obviously changes the match. But unfortunately for United, it did not go in. And then Crystal Palace adjusted to this probably within the first 15 to 20 minutes. After that, the game became pretty stale from a United perspective. They definitely had their chances in the first half, more so than the second half, to try and score and make the game a little bit more competitive. And I think that's something that United has really struggled with. And Ruben Amorim has actually brought this up in his post-match press conferences, is that we just can't seem to get that first goal to kind of take some pressure off us, especially when we're at home. We've now lost, I don't know if it's like 5 home matches in a row at Old Trafford. Ruben Amorim has lost. It took him 7 out of his first 5 home matches to lose 5 home games. And that was the next closest out of any of the post-Ferguson managers is like, I think it's David Moyes with like 35 matches or something crazy like that. It's like an insane stat. Yeah.
That's a terrible stat. And also, you guys lost 7 of the last 13.
Yeah, something like that.
7 of your 13 home games this season which is, I saw this on NBC over the weekend. That's the worst since like
1890.
Yeah, before United was even United. It was a whole different club name.
Exactly. So we're struggling at home right now. I think the pressure of the Old Trafford crowd is getting to the players a little bit. You can tell they play a little bit more cagey. And then I think another big thing that I want to talk about is I think this United team tactically struggle when they're playing against an organized team that doesn't have the pressure of hitting us on the front foot, if that makes sense. So I think United this season has done really well against teams that we should beat that are just straight up bad, just not organized, which is why we're winning our Europa League matches. It's why we beat the teams like Leicester and some of these bottom of the table teams. Even Southampton we didn't play that great against. But when it comes to a team like I don't know, Fulham is a good example because I think we just played them and beat them. But when it comes to a team like Fulham, Crystal Palace, Bournemouth, these teams that are organized and kind of Bournemouth presses high, so I don't know if that's a great example. But there's just a few teams like that are basically like anyone that's a decent Premier League side that can put it against an organized block against us, but also doesn't have to, like when we're at home, we're expected to take the game to the opposition, not the other way around. We really struggle against those teams because I don't think we have the creativity. I think we don't have the attacking patterns. We don't have the synergy in the attacking third, and we don't have the players in the attacking third to really be killers there. Our strikers aren't scoring goals right now between Højlund and Xerxes. And then our wingbacks, we keep starting Mazraoui and Dalot at wingback for the most part, 9 out of 10 games, and neither of them are good enough going forward to really make a difference in the attacking third. And just kind of results in these games where we can feel like we're in it for like 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes, but we just can't seem to create consistent chances. And then as soon as a goal goes in, pressure's on, we get a little bit more open, and then teams could find it easier to get a second and a third on us. So it's something that we're going to really need to work on. I'm hoping we have some hope moving forward with, we just signed Patrick Dorgu. He's a left wing back from Lecce who will come in and defensively, probably not as good as Dalot or Mazraoui, but offensively, he's a much better player. He's more athletic. He's faster. He can carry the ball and dribble. He's got good feet. He can dribble through crowds, so he can play infield in the left half space, or he can also hold width. His crossing is a little bit more raw, so not as good, but I do think overall he's going to be a net positive on United through the season. I don't think he's going to completely change our season. He's not going to take us from like, what are we, 13th now up to like 7th or 8th, but I think he's someone that will still be making a positive impact in the way we play, and at least give us more hope moving forward as far as seeing a better style of play and a little bit more fluidity in the attacking third.
Do you think he gets a starting position after a couple weeks after he's like at United?
I do. I think there's a chance he comes straight into the starting lineup, to be honest. I think he's that much of an upgrade, at least profile-wise, on the other left wing backs and right wing backs that we have. And the thing is, he can play on both sides as well, which is going to help him slot in because just wherever we need him, we're going to play him either at left wing back or right wing back. I think it's been, after Mazraoui had a good start to this season, I think everyone's kind of come to the decision like he's better as a right center back rather than a right wing back option. So I could see us moving Dalot back to right wing back, Mazraoui playing right center back, and then putting Patrick Dorgu at left wing back. Especially because another talking point from this game is that Lisandro Martinez went down with a season-ending injury. Unfortunately, he tore his ACL. He just was trying to track back and clear a ball, and I think it was Ismail Assar kind of like was behind him and touched him, and just the way that he touched him, it kind of shifted his weight, and he landed awkwardly on his knee and immediately knew it. Like as soon as he turned over, like hadn't even finished like trying to get up from the ground, he looked at the bench and said, "Get me off, like something's wrong." And he was in tears coming off the pitch. So I really do feel for him. That's his third major injury in 3 seasons, I'm pretty sure. He broke his foot towards the end of his first season at United. Took him a while to come back, and then he finally comes back from that and then gets a kind of a fluky knee injury because a player on West Ham fell on his knee. And then he had like a slight tear, but like didn't have to get surgery. And then again this season, has like an awkward buckle and tears his, I think it was his left ACL. So unfortunately for him, I think it's going to be hard for him to come back from that, at least not as the same player. And then that puts a big struggle on United because our only naturally left-footed center backs are two academy players right now. It's Kukanki and then this Aiden Heaven guy that we just signed from Arsenal, actually. Outside of that, we've got Johnny Evans, who can play that role, who's coming back from injury. Lenny Yoro can play on that side, but he's a right footer, so that's going to mess with our angles there. And then Luke Shaw is also back in training as of this week, so that's good timing for us. But obviously, with his injury record, you can't really rely on him to be the long-term solution either. So that's going to be something that United's going to have to figure out moving forward. But at the same time, I feel like this season's a little bit of a wash anyway. I think the team just is looking to continue to work on the style of play and not really worried about results too much moving forward. Let's see. One thing that I also want to touch on from United is what I talked about with Arsenal. A lot of fans are really upset with the lack of transfer activity. Our only signings were Diego Leon, who's like a random young Paraguayan player that can't join us until the summer anyway. I think he's only 17 years old. Mm-hmm. And then we signed Patrick Dorgu, who I just mentioned, who's that left wing back coming in. We signed him from Lecce for about £25 million or so, 30 million euros with add-ons, which I actually thought was a pretty good deal from United. From what everyone I've talked to, it seems like he's a pretty highly rated player, a little bit raw, like I mentioned, but should be a top player moving forward. And then who else did we bring in? I think there was Aiden Heaven, the center back from Arsenal. So like no one that's really going to come in and make an immediate first team impact, which is I think a lot of fans were hoping for. But I think my take on it is I'm glad that Manchester United didn't go out and go make any panic buys or go buy a player that didn't fit their system just for the sake of like trying to chase a pretty meaningless season. Mm-hmm. PSR is super tight right now. And there's just no reason to go spend money for a player that you don't know is going to be a great fit moving forward and you don't want to overpay for either. I'd much rather us consolidate our debts. We got Rashford off the books. We got Tyrone Malacia off our books. He's loaned out for 6 months. Same with Anthony. He's over at Betis for 6 months. And that's a lot of money that we're going to save not paying those wages. And then we're going to come into the summer, from what it sounds like, with a much stronger position to where we're going to be able to actually go out and buy players that we need for Amorim and be able to splash a little bit more cash with the savings that we've got and not wasting it on any sort of emergency signings or something like that. Because I know a lot of people are concerned about the striker situation. Rasmus Højlund and Joshua Zirkzee are not scoring goals. But at the same time, we need to think long-term here and not continue to do what we've done at United, which is throw a lot of money at suboptimal solutions, and then it become a problem for us 2-3 years down the line. So yep. I'm happy with the business, personally.
Yeah, I was going to say it's showing progress away from what got you guys in this mess of constantly buying players that don't turn into stars or don't turn into worth what you paid for them. So yeah, I think it's a fan base. You're always going to get like those people on Twitter being upset because you guys are having a terrible season. You want someone to come in and save the season. But I think it's really smart of you guys to just offload players that aren't performing, that you're overpaying, and like you said, to consolidate. And because the winter transfer window usually doesn't work out and you're usually overpaying. So you guys are actually like being sensible for once in the market, and hopefully trying to build like a long-term plan and get your cards straight and figure out what you need. Let Amorim figure out where he's got gaps in the squad, where everyone's going to be playing, which is what I want to get to in a second based off of Manu starting up top. But yeah, just give Amorim the time. Like you said, the season's kind of a wash, so why waste money on someone that you're not sure is going to be the right fit or what you need?
Yeah, and to play devil's advocate, I think some fans, like, hopefully no one's looking at the league, at the Premier League, thinking like, oh, we got to go try and challenge for European spots just with like how good the league is and how far back we are at this point. I think the only thing that fans maybe wanted to see a little bit more reinforcements for was Europa League. But I think if we can just get the team to perform a little bit better, I don't think it's something where we really needed to go buy a player just to try and win Europa League, just to try and get into Champions League, because that is our only route to playing European football next season. I wouldn't even mind if we aren't playing in Europe next season, just to give Amram more time on the training ground and try and get the signings more embedded in the team moving forward. And like you said, I like that we've gone with a different strategy as far as our transfer strategy, not going for these big buys that get us in trouble and aren't sustainable. If you look at our transfer activity over the last year, we brought in a lot of young players. We brought in Cheeto Obi Martin, who's a promising player in the academy. We brought in Aiden Heaven, who's still 18 years old. We held on to Alejandro Garnacho, a young player, Kabi Main, who's getting his minutes. Patrick Dorgu is only 20 years old. Joshua Xerxes is young. Rasmus Højlund's still only 21 or 22. Like, you can see that we're trying to build a young core and stopping going for these older, more expensive players that we end up being deadwood in a couple of years.
Yeah, I think that's great points. And I just went to ChatGPT to see how much teams make for making the Europa League, and it looks like base fee for group stage is 3.6 million. So if you win it all, you could earn 20 to 25 million pounds over a season. So you're going to go out there and spend more than that on one player to come in and try and win it all this season, just to hope to make it next season. The payoff doesn't really seem like it. The math isn't math in there. When the player might not turn out to be the right fit, or and you're probably going to pay more than that. And
exactly.
And who's to say you can't compete still? I mean, the Europa League isn't like that challenging. You guys are doing well in it. Finished in the top 3 or something, top 5.
Yeah, top 3.
Yeah. So I get why fans might say that, but I think it's just sensible not to have invested.
Yeah, and last thing on the transfers before we get to your question about the lineup, we even had what's his name, Mateus Tell or whoever just went to Spurs. Like, it was widely reported that he wanted Manchester United, and that's why he rejected Spurs and was waiting on some more offers. And United got down to the conversations, and how the conversations broke down is United didn't want to pay his $5 million loan transfer fee. It was apparently the big sticking point, which feels like nothing, but in my opinion, I like that we're kind of going out there and publicly showing that we're willing to walk away from deals if it's not the package that we want. I feel like we've done that a couple times recently. And even with Dorgu, Lecce kept asking for 40 mil or nothing. And we went in with a bid for 30 mil and they said no. And we gave them 30 mil plus 5 mil add-ons, and ended up getting the deal done. And I like that. Obviously, they're going to say something and come down, but everyone kept saying we're probably going to have to get much closer to that 40 mil mark. And we stayed much closer to 30. And I'm glad that United are showing a little bit of backbone as far as being not being bullied and having that quote-unquote United tax in deals anymore.
Yeah, the old United would have paid the 40 mil and would have paid the 5 mil loan bonus. I mean, to say 5 mil is nothing. I mean, you get him for half a season, 5 million for half a season, and he's played 0 minutes at Bayern. Who's to say he's even old? Yeah, who's to say he's even going to be worth it? 5 million for half a season is a lot of money that could go and make a big difference in the long term. Exactly,
and I wasn't even convinced tactically that he was the best fit either. He was just a young, talented player. It wasn't like he fit the system perfectly either. Yeah,
so I think we're both on the same page, and sounds like United is getting sensible with the transfers finally, and sounds like they're trying to get a strategy going. But back to the point about not wanting to sign players to give Amram time to figure out what he does need in the first place. Do you think that's the reason why Manu started up top? Just to figure it out? Because Højlund and Xerxes are both fit and on the bench. So it was really surprising. I think everyone was surprised to see Manu start up top. So what is your opinion on why he did that? Was it just to move players around to see if it was something that would work, or if he really thinks that Manu was the best fit for this game for whatever reason?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I watched the post-match press conference to see what he was going to say, and I cannot remember what his answer was. So shame on me. But I think it was kind of just he performed so well in the role in like an advanced role on Thursday, and both Højlund and Xerxes are not performing the best right now. So I think it was kind of just a let's see what happens. Like, let's throw something out there. Like, let's test out this look against Premier League opposition rather than just someone that was in Europa League. I think that was kind of him seeing, like, I don't think he actually sees Kabi Manu as a false nine option or even like a consistent, like, I think he knows Kabi can play as an advanced, like as one of our front three, but I don't even know if he sees him as like someone that's going to be the starting front three player. I think he just, with our other options being out of form, I think he said, let's just try this. Maybe we can catch Crystal Palace off guard or something. Just add a different dynamic to the team is what I think. It was like maybe just trying to be a little unpredictable. Just try something different. I feel like he's kind of treating the season. He can't come out and say this, but I think he's treating the season as a bit of a free hit as far as just trying to test things out, see what works, really get to understand his players more and understand how they fit into the system and then going from there.
Yeah, that's kind of the sense I've gotten, honestly, with how much he's chopped and changed the squads from game to game, which I don't really blame him as long as he has confirmation from like the board that he's not going to get fired unless they drop like too far or like play too bad. But yeah, so that's interesting, or kind of what I was thinking as well in terms of Manu starting up top. And then there was one other thing I wanted to bring up. Well, I forget what it is.
Like personnel or something?
Oh yeah, I remember watching. There was one cross in particular that went right across the goal, and Manu was kind of out of the top of the box, and it was Mazraoui who was the furthest forward on the back post. But he wasn't far enough advanced. But if you guys did have one of your strikers, especially Højlund up top, you'd think he would have been there to finish it. But that's just like one thing I saw, one takeaway from having Manu start up top. I'm not saying it was like the worst decision ever, but there was definitely that notable absence of not having a true striker, which is expected when you play a midfielder in like the false nine position.
Yeah, I think... I guess to your point, I think a lot of people's criticisms has been that even with the striker starting there, that they just haven't been getting like it's so. I've been seeing so many clips of like Højlund makes the front post run, but then no one's like making that run where they like kind of like fall back a little bit. Like Højlund takes the defense with them and then leaves a gap at the top of the six or something like that. It's just like the coordination of the runs, it just had not been there across the team. I think that's just like a team chemistry and a time thing, because there's so many clips of like, okay, there's times when Højlund makes the run and then it doesn't happen, or times when he doesn't make the run and players are like, oh, you should be at the front post or you should be at the back post. And I feel like there's just a lot of that going on in the team right now. And I'm hoping with time and time on the training guard, they can just kind of sort that out, because it seems to be more so execution issues rather than just ability issues from a lot of the players.
Yeah, it makes sense. And my point wasn't like much of like a point. It's just like some takeaway, something I saw since we were talking about Manu. But is there anything else you want to talk about on United?
Nothing on United. Besides, I'm just excited to see what Dorgu can bring to the team. That's like really only hope for anything changing in the near future. So I'm hoping he can come in and make an impact, even though he's young.
Nice.
All right, you want to move on to Forest versus Brighton? I think that was another really big result. That one ended up 7-0 from Forest. What a redemption game from them. I mean, after losing 5-0 to Bournemouth, to come out and put up this performance was probably a big statement on their part.
Yeah, that was the early game on Saturday, 7:30 a.m. Eastern time. But I'm really glad I got up for that game because it was a thriller. I didn't think like Brighton were necessarily like that bad for like most of the game. I thought Forest were just like really clinical and did like the right things and just like were just really, really good and just really outplayed Brighton. Brighton have been really bad this season. Who did they lose to? Like, was it City they lost to like really terribly early in the season by like 9 goals or something?
Was it?
They lost to someone really badly early in the season. It was Chelsea. It was the Chelsea game where they were playing the like crazy high line.
Yeah.
And like in that game, I thought they were really terrible and deserved to lose that poorly. I didn't think they were that bad. I just thought Forest were that good in this game. Chris Wood was there. Alonga was amazing on the right wing, putting in some crazy crosses. They had some really good movement. They just looked fantastic in the game and really finished their chances and capitalized on them.
Yeah, they did. I mean, a Chris Wood hat trick out of nowhere. You got the brace, and then had the pen to cap off the hat trick, which really hurt me in FPL, which was sucked to see. And then Anthony Alonga with the hat trick of assists as well, like you mentioned. That also kind of hurts to see as a former United player and a player that probably did not get enough chances at our club. And it was really controversial when we were selling him. People were thinking like he should play more. Other players were like, cash in on him, he'll never be good enough. And like, look at what he's doing with Forest now, and like a system that actually suits him and in a non-toxic environment. So I think good for him, but like I said, it hurts to see as a United fan when we're struggling for people that can, or when we're struggling for output in our attack.
It's so hard to say whether he would be producing and playing at the same level if he was still United, because like you say, United has been such a toxic and hard place to play over the years, and going away to a little bit of a quieter area, a team without as much pressure, obviously been really good for Longa. So who's to say if he would have been, but it definitely does hurt to see someone go and be so good somewhere else when you were a big fan of his in the first place at United.
Yeah, exactly. I think he was always one that I thought was fun to watch, but like you said, I don't think he would have ended up nearly as good if he had stayed with United. I think it was good that he left. And along the same lines, unrelated kind of, but I'm excited to see what Rashford does at Villa on loan for that same reason. I don't know if it's quite far enough away. Like, it's not too big of a skip, but I guess it's good that we get to see him in the Premier League still. He'll get to play in the Champions League and have a chance to show out over there.
Yeah, I don't know if I had too much else to talk about Brighton. I just thought they were fantastic. And FPL-wise, I did have sells, so I'm glad they hung on to that clean sheet. Brighton have just been like really poor for a while, which is surprising because they were tough start and then they got like really good. I remember watching some of the games around like Gameweek 6 or so, maybe. I forget when it was. But they looked so good attacking. They're really dynamic. Welbeck was on fire. Welbeck got injured and they like fell off. Welbeck's back now. I think he started. Yeah, he did because he had one nice shot off the crossbar. But they have just been really, really poor, which is surprising because there was one part of the season like, wow, these guys are great. Brighton are way better than I expected them to be, but not right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't watch them nearly enough to understand exactly what's going wrong, but they really do seem to be struggling. Just seem to be like hot and cold almost, like they have brilliant moments and then just have, I don't know if they're struggling to take in what the coach is saying or what's going on there, but definitely the vibes are not high there right now.
I'm just so glad I got rid of Pedro recently, finally. 2 weeks ago, I think. Because he was just terrible, and he was showing up like so far away from goal too. So glad to have 0 Brighton assets right now.
Same here. Good riddance to him. Let's see. In other Premier League news, speaking of the team that beat Forest last week, they got beat 2-0 by Liverpool. That was Bournemouth versus Liverpool. That was one of the most hyped games coming into the weekend, and I didn't see the second half of this game, but it seems like Bournemouth started the game all right actually, and like was putting up a decent fight against Liverpool. But Liverpool is Liverpool, Mo Salah is Mo Salah, and they just came out with seems like a routine win at the end of the day.
Yeah, Bournemouth definitely had their chances. When it was 1-0 to Liverpool, Bournemouth should have scored off of the Kluivert rebound. It was Tavernier had a nice shot off the post, rebounded to Kluivert, who hit it first time. Maybe should have taken a touch, but missed the goal. It was an open goal. Not the easiest finish. It wasn't like that close and had a tough angle. But I believe there was one other chance earlier in the game for Bournemouth. But yeah, they just didn't like really take their chances, and they got a lucky penalty. Liverpool did. I think it was a penalty. I do think was it Cook? Yeah, I think it was Cook clipped the back of Gakpo's foot. So I do think it was a penalty, but soft. Liverpool got a lot of penalties this year, which I think has helped them a lot. They've gotten a lot of like points kind of late, a lot of late goals. So things have just been going their way this season. as it did in this game with Bournemouth missing chances and Liverpool getting a penalty and Salah having a crazy finish.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have Salah, and I'm happy with my assistant manager chip, but it hurt a little bit to see Salah get those 2 goals with him. A lot of people being on triple captain on him, which I didn't enjoy seeing that.
Yeah, it's just all the penalties are so frustrating because he's gotten so many.
But, I mean, I guess good for Liverpool. They keep the ball rolling. They avoid what could have been a trap game for them, and I'm hoping we get a Moyes masterclass not this weekend, but I guess the following week after that, because that will be perfect for. I don't know actually what I'll do with my assistant manager, but I would just from a fan standpoint would love to see Everton put up a good fight in the last Merseyside derby at what is their stadium called?
Merseyside.
I forget what it is.
Is it?
Is it Merseyside?
I don't know. I thought so. People always say Merseyside, but
yeah. Either way. I'm hoping they can. I guess it's just called Everton. Stadium,
no, it's Goodison Park.
Goodison Park. Thank you.
Gee, that was bad.
I was like, I know it's something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm hoping Everton can put up a good fight against Liverpool. They seem to be rolling, which is actually going to be the next game I was talking about. Everton are looking really good under David Moyes. They just beat Leicester 4-0. I know it's Leicester, but Everton are scoring goals. Like, can you believe it? They put up 4 goals against Leicester City. I'm pretty sure they put up 3 against Tottenham, which is like, I would be shocked if they put up like that many goals in the first like 19 games or however many games of the season that they played. But yeah, really good to see Everton performing well. Beto, who was a player that people were ready to count out, actually came up with a brace. Good for him.
Yeah, I was going to say even Moyes can get Beto to score a brace, so he's got some magic touch.
Exactly. If Beto's scoring, you know Moyes is doing something right over there. No offense to Beto. Yeah. And then from a FPL standpoint, really good to see Njai. I still don't really know how to say his name. Njai. Score in the 90th minute as well. Definitely helped cement a good assistant manager chip on Moyes on my part. I think, did you do the same?
Yeah, that game was huge for FPL because not most people, but it was big going either slot versus Moyes and then the assistant manager versus Salah. I had triple Liverpool, so I didn't want to transfer out Luis Diaz to bring in slot because I already did one transfer. I did Pedro to Njai, I think. And I did Pedro to Njai, and so that had enough money to go just straight to Moyes. So it just made sense to not use extra transfers, and I feel validated in going with Moyes, not taking any extra transfers. I couldn't have asked for anything better from the assistant manager in the first game for Moyes. Never would have guessed that many goals, but 12-pointer from Moyes is incredible with this assistant manager, and I think anything we get from Liverpool is just bonus.
Yeah, it was nice. I was debating that super, super hard for a while. I was thinking about transferring Gakpo out, but that was after I'd already transferred Gakpo in that same game week. And that one, I don't know in the long term if that actually ended up working out in my favor because I transferred Gakpo out of my team for Mateta was the player that I sacrificed. So that hurt. That was another thing from the Palace game that hurt me even more as a United fan. I benched Munoz. I was between Munoz and Robinson. Started Robinson, and Robinson picked up an assist, and I thought, okay, like that'll end up all right. And then Munoz got the clean sheet and the assist to Mateta for his brace, who I had also transferred out of my team.
And so late in the game too against your team,
exactly.
Dagger.
It was tough. Like when I saw Munoz have the ball on a breakaway, I was like, oh no! And I saw he slotted it to Mateta, and I was like, no! I was so upset, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
You're stronger than most because most people would not have been able to handle like the trifecta against your team, having benched Munoz, having taken out Mateta. That would have big swing there.
Yeah, it was a dagger as well.
Yeah, I was happy because I am a Mateta owner as of 2 weeks, so it was really nice to see that. Especially after seeing Chris Wood score a hat-trick, I needed Mateta to kind of make up some ground, so that was huge for me personally.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's keep running through these games. Next one I want to talk about was Spurs. They showed some signs of life against Brentford. Ange got the team fighting a little bit. They ended up beating Brentford 2-0 on the road as well. Brentford has been pretty strong at home and been known to score goals. So for them to be able to not only win but keep a clean sheet against Brentford, I thought was a pretty big statement on their part.
Yeah, really surprising that they kept Brentford from scoring. Who started? I'm looking up right now.
I got it
Okay.
in front of me. You
So,
talk about their back line, or
yeah.
yeah, they started Pedro Porro right back, Archie Gray center back, Ben Davies center back, and then Jed Spence at left back. Um, and apparently Spence had a really good game. I didn't really watch much of this game, but
Yeah, I didn't
apparently
either.
Spence was like arguably the best player on the pitch for either team.
Wow. And so is Dragusin injured, or did they just start Davies over him?
Dragusin is injured towards ACL about a week
Yeah.
ago, unfortunately. So he's out of the season or out for the season. It seems like Van de Ven and Romero are both back, maybe.
Va-
No, I
Va-
guess. Is
no, Van de Ven started or played in midweek, but he was
okay.
left out of the squad. I'm pretty sure, from what I've heard, they just wanted to give him a full rest for the upcoming cup games
Makes
because
sense.
it's more. They got more to play for.
So Spurs are getting healthy and trying not to make this mistake of rushing their players back too early. I think Romero is supposed to be back right around the corner as well. He might be ready now, but I think they just want to like not rush him back like they did with Van de Ven.
Hmm.
And then Dragusin out for the season hurts them again with their depth, but they did just sign. They were able to hijack a deal for I think his name is Kevin Danso from Lens. He's from the French league and is a center back who I think he's been looked at by a lot of Premier League clubs. I forget who was trying. I think it was Wolves had a deal for him, and he was basically on his way to London or whatever to go visit Wolves and complete that deal. And Tottenham were able to hijack the deal actually. So good move on their part. I think they got him for like 25 million euros, so less than like 25 million pounds, which is a pretty good deal for a center back who seems to be pretty solid. I can't say that I've watched him a whole bunch, but he is someone that I've seen mentioned in a lot of circles on Twitter as far as potential cheap, good center back alternatives. So it seems like Tottenham did some good business there.
Nice. And FPL wise, that was great that Tottenham got the clean sheet because I didn't have Embuemo or Wissa, and I was really worried this week that those two players were gonna pop off. Especially, I was expecting like a Wissa 9 pointer at least, but
Mm-hmm.
thankfully they didn't score because I know a lot of people were bringing in Embuemo, even though he's already highly owned, so that worked in my favor.
Yeah, that kind of hurt me in the opposite way. I moved over for Mbumo like I think it was at least 1 week ago, maybe even 2 weeks, trying to get some form underneath it, like try and beat the uptick in form because I knew people were going to want to bring him in and try and get some team value out of him. And so far, not going my way, unfortunately. So,
Did you take out
not what I
someone?
wanted to
Did you
see.
take out someone good for him, or is this just kind of like wash for wash?
No. Oh, I shouldn't say no. I took out my boy Bruno Fernandez.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I downgraded him, but I also partly did that because I needed some money to upgrade Enzo Fernandez and make some other upgrades on my team with this assistant manager chip coming up.
yeah. I think that was smart.
Yeah, so I don't regret the decision. I just wish it would I went a little bit more my way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's go on to the next match. I didn't watch this match, but I did. What am I saying? Wolves beat Aston Villa 2-0. This was a decently fun game to watch. It very much was Wolves and Villa coded. Villa seemed pretty flat, pretty meh for most of the game. They just cannot seem to beat teams after playing in the Champions League midweek. They just continually lose those matches, and I guess it goes to show why they try to bring in so many reinforcements in the transfer window. Try and get some fresh legs in there and add a little bit more depth to their squad, because I did look at their squad and they are pretty injured, which I didn't realize. But this game, Wolves go up early and just are able to kind of sit back and not defend for their lives, because I don't think Aston Villa really created too much on their own, but Wolves were definitely content with sitting back and trying to hit them on the counter. And then Cunha made a couple mistakes in that second half that eye that didn't look great, but then he still has the quality to go on and counterattack and score a brilliant goal at the end of the game to kill Villa off. But yeah, good showing from Wolves. Poor result for Villa, but I think Villa is still looking on the up after all the signings that they just brought in January.
Mm-hmm. We all three, you, me, and Christian, the guest we had on last week, all predicted that game correctly. So that was kind of cool for us to all get that game right because it was quite a big upset. But I do think we were all skeptical of Aston Villa in general. And like you said, especially after the midweek Champions League games where they put a lot of effort into those and into the Cup, especially with Unai Emery being a big Cup manager.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's move on to Newcastle. They lost to Fulham 2-1. Newcastle actually went up first in this game in the 37th minute thanks to Jacob Murphy. But Fulham put on a better overall performance throughout the rest of the game and ended up scoring twice. He scored twice in the second half. First it was Raul Jimenez, and then Jimenez comes off the pitch. He got subbed off and was actually really pissed that he was being brought off. Was throwing his arms and throwing a fit, but then Muniz, just a few minutes later, came in and scored the winner. So good for him. And then
it was also off of Anderson's cross, who also was a sub.
Nice masterclass or masterstroke from what's his name, Marco Silva, right there in terms of the substitution decision making there.
Yep. Robinson with another assist. He thinks up to 10 assists this season.
Is he
at
really?
least 10 FPL assists. I benched him again. Granted, it was only 4 points, but still, I've been getting my benchings wrong in my defense lately.
Yeah, he's up to 10 assists. You're right. 10 assists in the league.
Wow.
Good for him.
Has so many from a left back with games to go.
Yeah.
I saw him wearing the captain's armband.
Really?
So he captained him this weekend. Just love that for Robinson. Love that for U.S. national team. I'm just a huge fan of Anthony Robinson. Looks like he really works hard. Seems like a really good person. Love his energy. Love his fight. And him and Tyler Adams are two of my favorite players on the U.S. national team. So I'm loving that we're able to see them play and do really well at the Premier League.
Yeah, seems like a lot of the U.S. players are kind of finding form between like Pulisic is continuing to perform for AC Milan. He scored a pretty good goal in a big match recently. And then Anthony Robinson is obviously balling out, like you said. Tyler Adams coming back into form. I think Weston McKennie's doing just all right with Juventus as well. Ricardo Pepi, he just got picked up off of PSV and brought to the Premier League by someone, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, really?
Unless that deal didn't end up going through. Let me fact check myself real quick. Oh, never mind. I guess he was being looked at. Like, he basically had the here we go for some Premier League team, but then ended up staying at PSV and signing a contract there. So I guess that move didn't end up working out, but he was real close to coming to the Premier League as well. I think it was either for West Ham or like some middle table club that needed a striker.
Oh, well. I didn't know that was in the works at all, but that would have been interesting and would have been nice to see him play and see, just because I never seen him play.
Yeah, I think he was supposed to go to West Ham, but then Graham Potter pulled the plug on that and brought in his old boy Evan Ferguson from Brighton instead.
Which probably a better move.
Yeah, I agree. I think Evan Ferguson is a more talented player and also knows Potter's system because he came up from the Brighton Academy.
Knows the Prem.
Graham Potter was the manager, so knows the Prem well. Yeah, I think if he can stay healthy, that's going to be a better move for West Ham.
Mm-hmm.
And then last result I want to touch on real quick was Southampton beating Ipswich 2-1. That was a bottle at the bottom of the table. Honestly, good for Southampton to go out there and get their second win of the season. They are now on a whopping 9 points in the Premier League, which is insane to say after 24 games or something crazy like that. But I wish I watched more of this game, but I just didn't feel like watching two bottom of the table teams battle it out with the rest of the games going on this weekend.
Yeah, good for Southampton.
Yeah. All right. That wraps up all the games, though. Real quickly, let's touch on some of the transfer window news. Today is the official day of the January transfer window, or official end of the January transfer window. And so there are a lot of deals that came out of that came out in the Premier League, but lots of loan deals. And I think you had this note in here. I think it's an outcome of PSR. What were your thoughts there?
Yeah, just so many loans, and I think it's because teams don't have the money or are afraid to put down too much money on a player because of PSR, because it is pretty strict. So that's like that's just my hypothesis after seeing so many loans happen. More loans in a transfer window than I can recall, or at least like maybe percentage wise in terms of like loans versus like full transfer deals. So that's my hypothesis, is that it is an outcome of PSR.
Yeah, I think with PSR being more strict, and like you mentioned earlier in the pod, that January transfers are usually also more expensive because it's hard to get a player off of a team mid-season because teams are obviously battling for top positions, they're battling for titles, battling for trophies. At some of these teams that are having like some of these teams, like I don't know what a good example to bring up is, but there's some teams that are having like really good seasons that maybe don't usually. And it's usually because they have these players that are popping up that are turning into stars. Like, for example, like a Frankfurt with Marmoush over at Frankfurt. He's having the season of his life there, but you're going to have to pay a little bit more than you might in the summer because mid-season they're doing okay in Bundesliga, I think, but also doing really well in the Europa League. They were in second going into last week. So like they have their own aspirations. So if they're going to blow up their aspirations, their mid-season, you're going to have to pay a pretty penny, which is, I think, why a lot of teams have gone with loan moves instead than full-out purchases of some of these players.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, we'll see if this holds in future winter transfer windows, but I can't think of any other reason for all of these loans. But do you want to just run through some of the top deals that you saw, and we can do quick thoughts?
Yeah, I'll do quick thoughts on all of these. First is Rashford. That's the biggest one, at least for me. Rashford to Villa. This was a saga that started even prior to the January transfer window opening. Rashford came out and was like, I want a new challenge back in like end of November or early December. And it seemed like he was getting tied to AC Milan, Barcelona, and long story short, he ends up at Aston Villa on the day before the transfer deadline. I think this is a good move for both parties. I think Rashford definitely needed to play somewhere outside of Manchester United and just get away from the toxicity of the club. I think that's been the biggest detriment to his performance. I know people have talked about off-field issues, talked about him not training well, this, and that. But I think ultimately it was just decided a couple months ago that Rashford just really wanted to play somewhere else and kind of just get away from this toxic Manchester United situation. And then on the Aston Villa side, like I said, they've got a lot of injuries, and I think he's someone that can step into their team and immediately contribute. They'd like to play a 4-4-2, so him playing next to Ollie Watkins in that 4-4-2, I think, could actually work dividends for them. And I'm hoping for success there. What do you think of that move?
I think it's good for Rashford. TBDE, kind of a cop-out, but I don't know how good it is for Villa, just because Rashford has been like pretty poor lately. But if he can get his mind right and really focus and train hard, then it could be good, because, I mean, we've seen Rashford be really good in the past. It's just been a long time since then. But I do think it is definitely good for Rashford to get a change of scenery. And he's joining a team in the Champions League. I mean, he's getting like an upgrade in the team, so like why would you... I would be really pretty happy if I was Rashford.
Yeah, exactly. And from a United perspective, they're covering 70% of his wages, so they get a good bit of his wages off the book. He automatically becomes Villa's highest paid player, which is interesting.
Serious?
Yeah,
Damn.
They gave him the number 9 shirt as well. So it seems like Emery really believes in him and is hoping to bring the best out of him. So we'll see if Emery can save him. Emery seems pretty detail oriented and pretty regimented, so hopefully that's what Rashford needs moving forward.
Nice, yeah. From Villa's new number 9 to the previous number 9, John Duran, the outgoing number 9 of Villa, moving to Al Nassr for, I don't know how much. He's getting a crazy contract.
It was £64 million transfer fee, like 73 million euros or something like that. And then on top of that, he went from making 50K a week at Villa, when taxed at like 40% is like 32K or something like that, to making 320K. And I don't think that gets taxed in Saudi Arabia per week. He's only 20 years old. And I think the more I thought about this deal, the more okay with it I was. I think selfishly, I wanted to see John Duran in the Premier League just because he's such an exciting, fun player to watch. But at the same time, I was thinking about it. He can go guarantee his money. Like I've heard a lot of stories about he's got a pretty poor family back in Colombia and all this. So he can go guarantee his money, get that paycheck. And if he stays the extent of his 5-year contract, he comes back at 25 years old. But I think he can get out even before the end of that 5-year contract. I know his wages are high, but I'm sure he realistically understands he could take a pay cut to like come back somewhere else. So like he can still come back at like less than peak age for a striker after this deal is done. I think the big if is just whether he can stay sharp and maintain his like actual playing ability and develop as a player as he needs to. But either way, good move for Villa as far as cashing in on him. It sounds like there were some issues in the locker room with him as well, as far as attitude and him not really meshing well with the Emery way. So I think if you can get that kind of money for him, not have to sell him to a Premier League rival, and then Duran is out of the locker room. He's happy. You're happier as a club. Probably a good deal overall.
Yeah, I think it is a good deal for both teams, for both parties. A 10x his salary, which is crazy. And yeah, similar thoughts to you at first. Was like, oh man, what's he doing? But then once I kind of thought about it some more, you said he's still so young. He's making tons of money. He can always come back. So I don't blame him after reading into it some more.
Yeah,
it's just insane how much money he's making at 20 years old over there, and such an unproven player. But I do hope that he does keep the similar trajectory in terms of development.
Yeah, me too. Hopefully he can come back from this. And then
one thing I think it was like the Athletic pod, I heard an interesting thing that Al Nassr are in the FIFA Club World Cup this summer, and they're definitely assembling quite the squad, because I think Ronaldo's on the team. They got John Duran. They were looking at Matoma too. So just something to keep a lookout for this summer.
Yeah, that's a great point that you just raised. Actually, did you see that Matoma bid? That
it was like 80 mil or something.
Yeah, it was some like it might have been like 95 million euros and like 80 million pounds or something crazy like that. Like I don't know how I don't know what Brighton thinks they were going to get for Matoma, or if they think he's that important to what they're doing. But I feel like turning that down is kind of crazy. Like it wasn't like the player disagreed with the personal terms. It was Brighton that just rejected the offer.
Yeah, I think you'd get maybe just over half that from anyone else. And Matoma's not even that great this season. He hasn't even been starting all the games. He's been benched for some games. They've got a super deep squad of tons of young talent. I don't know why. I'm surprised Brighton didn't take it, because that's a ton of money. And Matoma's not that good, and his output is not equivalent to like that amount of money that you could do like so much with.
Exactly. Like Matoma's a good player, but that's a lot of money. That's like that's the type of money you get for like some of the best players in the Premier League, you know? Like I just don't know how you don't take that and run to the bank.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go back to another young striker. We just talked about this move a little bit briefly, but Evan Ferguson is also on loan to West Ham. He's reuniting with Graham Potter. He didn't play under Graham Potter too much. I think he only played like 6-7 games before Graham Potter moved to Chelsea mid-season at Brighton. But still, I think that could be a potentially good move for him, just because I feel like Brighton isn't playing well. He's having a hard time getting to the team consistently, and I think a change of scenery will be good for him. And West Ham are crying out loud for a true striker. They started Jared Bowen at striker today against Chelsea, and then they started, I think, Paqueta at striker the last couple of games, and kind of like I don't know if it's a false nine or just true striker, but they need some reinforcements there, and I really hope he can kick off, because he was one of my favorite players over the last like 2 seasons, and then he kind of had to struggle. He had a tough time staying healthy. So I'm hoping he can stay healthy and get back to the form that he had when people were saying he might go for like 100+ million pounds.
Yeah, I'm just excited to see him play some more, because he was like a super fun striker to watch. He's tall, he's big, and he's got a really strong shot, incredible finishing on him. So it would be great to see him find some form again.
Yep. And then this is another one that we talked about a little bit already, but Tell on loan to Spurs from Bayern. That was like a whole saga. Like he rejected Spurs and said, actually, no, I'm not interested, after Daniel Levy flew all the way to Germany to talk to him and his team face to face. And he basically said, not interested. Seems like he really wanted United. United and Bayern got into talks as well as some other teams that are interested in him. And I think what happened was the other teams left the table and he went back to Spurs and was like, all right, fine, I'll join you guys. And then Spurs, honestly, I will say good on them. Spurs held out and they refused to sign the contract for a straight loan. They said there has to be a buy option included, and they got Bayern to budge on that. And Bayern included a 55 million euro buy option for Tell at the end of the loan if things go well. So I think that was actually honestly good on Spurs to kind of stay at it and not really be pushed over too much in this deal.
Because originally Tell rejected the buy, like the transfer, the buy, right? So that's what he didn't want. But then when they offered the loan, he agreed to the loan, right?
Yes, exactly.
How much?
Like I think Tell knew.
How much was the bid? How much the bid was for originally to buy him?
The bid was for 60 million.
Okay, so 55 plus 5 million, so total 60. So same thing that they agreed to essentially.
I think so, yeah.
And then I guess
remember if the bid was in pounds or euros because that makes a slight difference, but still not too far off.
And I guess Tell will have a say. He can like go and have a say. He will just refuse a contract if he doesn't want to like make the permanent move to Tottenham after the summer, which is what he refused in the beginning.
I assume that's how it's going to work. I think Marcus Rashford has a similar deal with Aston Villa. Marcus Rashford is on a straight loan, and then Villa have a buy option for £40 million for Rashford, but it's still under the condition that the player also wants to stay. Like it's not like an obligation to buy where the player's going there. Like Jadon Sancho is going to be a Chelsea player. Like they basically have to buy him unless they finish like outside the top 12 or something crazy like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, so it does sound like good business then from Tottenham to make that work.
And then, well, him as a player, that's one thing I guess I want to touch on. Like, I'm not sure how much of a immediate effect he's going to be able to have. Like, I think he looks like a really talented player. I don't watch nearly enough Bayern to know if he's someone that can come in and create an immediate impact. He's 19 years old, so like, I am hesitant to go on and say that he's going to like change their season in any way, in any meaningful way, which I think is why they really insisted on having the buy option. Because if they were just loan him and pay to have him, I think this is a move that they're looking at for longer than just these 6 months is all I'm trying to say.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Moving on to another Aston Villa move, we have Marco Asensio coming on loan to Villa. They've added another attacker. I feel like he's kind of like he plays right wing, but also a little bit like center, like a attacking midfielder role as well. I haven't seen him play in a while. I really have no idea what his level of quality is like, but it seems like Villa brought in a lot of quality players because they also brought in Axel Disasi at center back to help them because I think Tyrone Mings just went down with another injury as well. So the Villa have, just to sum up their transfer window, they brought in Daniel Malin, they brought in Marcus Rashford, they brought in Axel Disasi, and they brought in Marco Asensio. All those players are on loan besides Malin was a permanent transfer. And then they sold John Duran for £64 million. And then they also sold Philogene to Ipswich for another £12 million or something like that. So they brought in a lot of money. And I do think they made their team better with these loans that they brought in. So really, really good window from Villa. They might be my winners as far as Premier League teams go for the transfer window.
Yeah, got me thinking. I'm wondering, I mean, they need depth in general, but they're really trying to bring in some experience to try and push for like a deep Champions League run, with Emery being like such a cup manager and them doing well so far and finishing the top 8 and getting like that first round or two bye.
What a story that would be if Marcus Rashford could somehow win a Champions League with Aston Villa.
That'd be nuts.
That'd be nuts. I mean, last year, that's how our loans have worked out. Last year, we loaned out Jadon Sancho to Dortmund, and he was like one of the main reasons they were able to make that push to the Champions League final last season. So it would be awesome to see Rashford be able to do that, just as someone that's been such a big fan of his. And I would love to see Emery be able to pull his magic there.
I mean, that would kill me to see Emery, former Arsenal manager, get a team to the final, but that'd be nuts.
Yeah, definitely. With your team beating the competition, I'm sure you don't want to see that as much as I do.
No.
Last move I want to talk about is João Felix got his move away from Chelsea. I think this brings up a wider conversation about we talked about this last week on the pod with Christian, but it's so hard for Chelsea to keep all these good players happy. like João Felix, I think is a very quality player that's been kind of rotting away on Chelsea's bench, and he I think had enough, and he's like, I need to go get first team minutes somewhere. So he was able to escape off to AC Milan, a team that's performing well and got a lot to play for this season. So hopefully he can go over there and make an immediate impact with them. What was I going to say? Oh, going back to Chelsea, though, it seems like they are in such an interesting situation because Christian's over here complaining about like their lack of depth. Like they don't really have a backup center attacking mid anymore. I guess if Cole Palmer were to go down, their striker options are Jackson and Mark Gui, who's like 19 years old. I guess he feels like they don't have the best options on the wing. And I was like, I just have a hard time empathizing with Chelsea having any sort of issues with lack of depth with just the way that they've gone about their business, buying so many players. Like they should have players on deck and ready to play. But it just goes to show you can't buy that many stars because stars aren't going to want to ride the bench. And it seems like Maresca has an idea of who he wants to play, and he's going to play those people unless they're injured. So I think that's just kind of inevitable when you have so many good players. Like there's going to be issues where people just need the playing time. So I think that's been a really interesting dynamic to see play out over the last like 6 months or so with Chelsea.
Yeah, I've got zero empathy for Chelsea having lack of depth, especially given like how big their squad was coming into this season. It was the infamous fight in the FPL group chat about their 44-man squad. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was 44. To complain about not having depth is ridiculous when you got a 44-person squad. I guess you do have like 5 goalkeepers, so that kind of hurts because they're not outfield players. But yeah, just Chelsea's buying kind of willy-nilly without really doing enough planning. And like you said, when you're buying stars and not players that can just rotate young talent that are willing to come in or that are like kind of developing or somewhat like mid-tier players that can be backups, you're going to have problems.
Yeah,
so
I mean, it makes sense.
I'd kind of love to see it, though, honestly.
Yeah, me too. Me too. It was like very validating because I remember seeing them buy Nkunku, Felix, and they had Cole Palmer already. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, all 3 of these guys kind of like to play in the same areas. And then you come around to this January, like flash forward about a year or so, maybe a year and a half, 2 years. You've got Nkunku trying to leave the club or like at least exploring options because he's looking for more playing time. João Felix is leaving because he needs more playing time. And I just feel like this was bound to happen, something that you could see coming from like a mile away. Not that it's a major problem for Chelsea. They're still sitting in 4th, but still interested to see the medium to long-term effects of this kind of squad planning to see if it really works out for them.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Anything else on Chelsea?
Nothing else on Chelsea. I already mentioned who I think my winner of the transfer window is in the Premier League. I think it's Aston Villa. City probably gets an honorable mention, although they signed a lot of young players. They just signed Nico Gonzalez today. He's a midfielder from Porto, I believe, that is decently rated. I've never watched him, so I can't really speak on him too much. But if he comes in and is a good midfield addition, and Marmoush kicks off the way that we think he might, I think City also had a great window as well.
Nice. Losers of the window.
Losers. Ooh, that's a great question. I didn't think too hard about this one.
I just thought about it right now.
Yeah. Do you have one?
I think Arsenal. Honestly, I think my team is like the loser of it. We didn't sign anyone that I can think of. I'm pretty sure we signed no one. And with losing Gabriel Jesus before the transfer window started, we knew, and kind of Havertz not being in great form, we knew the striker position was a point of need. We got basically no striker backup, and we signed no one. So we talked about it earlier. We're sticking to our transfer policy, which I like, but to sign no striker is a bummer.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it just felt like borderline pre-Jesus injury. Like, you might go get another attacker with a soccer injury, and you guys struggling for goals still. And then seeing Jesus go down, it kind of just felt like, okay, you guys have to at least go get someone, even if it's just like a player that you know is only going to be there for 6 months. Like United did something with like, this is a real throwback, but we had a similar situation. We were just low on attackers. We went and signed Odiano Igalo from I forget who it was even from, but he played for us for 6 months, had the time of his life, and then went back, just
Yeah.
knowing it was going to be super temporary. I was hoping Arsenal would at least do something like that, but it sounds like they're ready to stick to their guns.
Yeah, it's just crazy not to find like any type of loan. Like there were so many loans, you couldn't find any striker to loan for half a season, just as like a backup, just in case like Havertz is injured, like which would be terrible, even though he's super durable. But other than that, I mean, it's hard to really judge a winter transfer window. It's hard to say there are any other like real losers. But just us signing no one, probably will give it to us.
Yeah, I would have loved to see United maybe try and sign someone else, but at the same time, it wasn't realistic with the financial situation that we're in right now. And I think we would have been losers. What I think would have been losers is if we sold Garnacho for less money than what we should have got for him.
That's what I wanted to.
Not should have got, but whatever.
That's what I wanted to bring up. Is like honestly, you guys holding on to Garnacho was the biggest win of the transfer window.
Yeah, I thought that was huge for me. I was honestly really scared we were gonna have a transfer window where we lose both Rashford and Garnacho. I was like, and if our replacement was going to be Tell on top of that, I would have been pretty upset as a United fan.
One quick story, just speaking of transfer windows, like Fabrizio being so busy. Before the podcast started, we briefly touched on the Luka trade. And I was like really into that because I'm not a huge NBA guy, but it was such huge news. I was like loving the reacts and stuff and read a lot on it. And there's a soccer fan everyone was like freaking out because this transfer came out of the blue, which is like the big thing. There was a soccer fan on Twitter or something that commented, "You NBA fans are so lucky you guys don't have Fabrizio because in soccer you never get this surprise because he's always breaking stuff months in advance or weeks in advance." I mean, there's Shams and others in Woj in the NBA, but I just thought, and so they break things a lot of times. But I thought this was a really funny comment. And relatable.
No, you're right. You're so right. Someone sent something similar in one of my messages, and it's like that is one of the fun things about the NBA is that like you have the Woe. I guess Woe is just technically like out the game now as of the last I think he left this season, but Woj is out the game. Now. But you still have Shams, and like you get these Woj bombs or the Shams bombs where these moves come out of nowhere. And you're right, Fabrizio Romano and David Ornstein is at least a little bit more like dropping bombs with his, but Fabrizio, he's just so in the know that like he's teasing deals 6 months before they happen. And I think it has kind of taken some of the shock and awe factor out of some of the transfer window movements. I would love to see it get a little bit more unpredictable like the NBA.
Yeah. If you got a story on this, you can share as well, but my favorite kind of deadline day signing was Arsenal getting Ozil out of the blue. That was awesome because completely out of the blue from what I can remember, at least like in my I was really into soccer and pretty in the know at that time, but Ozil came out of the blue and that was a sick feeling.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like, I don't know if I have like a most notable deadline day signing, and I might get killed for forgetting him, but I don't know, just the most recent like late signings I can think of is Casemiro, which is something that I am not happy about as a United fan, personally. We were chasing Frankie de Jong all summer and thinking, oh, we're going to get him, and then got teased and didn't get him at the end. And then we go out and lose to, I think it was Brighton and Brentford back-to-back, and we said, oh, shoot, we really need to bring someone in to, like, put a Band-Aid on this, and we bring in Uncle Casemiro, who, to be fair to him, had a great first season, but then after that, it's just kind of gone downhill since then. And now he's the highest player on our payroll. We are paying him basically almost close to £300 a week to rot on our bench, and I think he's played like 15 minutes in the last like 5, 6, 7 matches. So I think I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum, thinking of deadline day transfers there.
Yeah, and you paid like crazy amount transfer fee for him, but but my pick also ended up in the same way, overpaying him to rot on the bench. So
yeah,
all ends the same.
Fair enough. You probably got a little bit more excitement out of Ozil than I did out of Casemiro.
100%.
Yeah. But yeah, that's all I had on transfers. It's going to be really interesting to see how all these players bet into their new teams, and hopefully it shakes up the league and gives us some more exciting stuff to talk about. Real quick, do you want to run into our lightning rounds, our Premier League predictions? We can look at the next set of matches. It is going to be a little bit away because we've got Carabao Cup and FA Cup in between, but we can still go into them and get our predictions on paper leading into that.
Yeah, let's do it. So this past week's predictions, Christian went 4 for 10. I went 5 for 10, so I'm currently 16 out of 30. And then you went 6 for 10, and you're currently 20 out of 30. So you've been really good the past 2 weeks, going 6 for 10 and then 7 for 10 the week before that, Tooch.
Nice. I'll take it. I feel like
we predicted the Liverpool-Everton midweek game, but that's not till next Wednesday. So we will update everyone in the next pod.
Nice. Hopefully, I think I made a bold prediction now. I think I said Everton to beat Liverpool, maybe. I can't remember what I said.
I can't remember. But you were saying you felt like you've been getting a little lucky recently?
Yeah, just a little bit, but I'll take it. Let's see. I have the games pulled up. Did you have any thoughts on the results from last weekend? I know it was pretty cool that we got the Wolves one right. Spurs kind of shocked us in the opposite way.
Yeah. The Newcastle Fulham one I knew was going to be a tough game, so I was not surprised that I got that wrong with going Newcastle. Other than that, I'm glad my Arsenal pick. I felt really confident in that. Glad that obviously went my way and was correct. Other than that, nothing too surprising. I went with United, which dumb in hindsight. I was kind of questioning why I was doing it. I didn't have a good reason, and I shared that, but did it anyway. So just kind of bummed I went. That's the biggest bummer that I went with United, even though I had no good reason to make that pick. And I would have tied you for the week, but yeah, other than that, that's it.
Yeah. Also, I guess I'll say the one pick that I'm actually proud of was Southampton versus Ipswich.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good one.
I have felt like Southampton have actually, despite the dismal form that they're in, have actually been playing better. Just not having they just don't have as good of a squad as most people, so that just the cracks will begin to show. But I think they're playing better than they were playing under the previous manager. And with them playing a relegation side, I thought, if any game, this is the chance that they've got to actually go nick a win. So I'm glad that actually worked out in my favor there.
Mm-hmm. And on the last pod, you mentioned you might throw that into a parlay. Did you?
I did not. I stayed up so late on Friday night going into Saturday, working on FPL. The assistant managership threw such a wrench in my plans, and I spent all day Friday just trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to react to this? And then, like I said, I went to that nice dinner, so I was out of commission for a few hours on Friday night, and I got back late and just immediately went into FPL research mode. And it was this assistant managership could make or break your season, essentially. So I put in so much research and so much time into it. And I ended up going to bed late and not waking up in time to place my parlays, or long story short.
Nice. The assistant managership really threw a wrench into, because it was really all the Gameweek 25 getting provisionally announced, because that was a big shocker, and then that sent everything rolling into the assistant manager, which is a 3-week long commitment, and everyone was already planning to do the triple captain on Salah, which seemed to work out well. Yeah, it was crazy time in FPL world.
Yeah, it was honestly fun to see everyone reacting to it, and I think because not everyone had a whole week to prepare, there were so many differing opinions, and watching people kind of change their opinions throughout the day as they got to process information and stuff was cool to see from an FPL perspective.
Yeah, no, it was a good time.
Yeah, we can touch on that a little bit more after we do our pick'em. Cool. But I've got the games up if you're ready.
You want to switch it up this time? You go first.
Yeah, I'll go first.
Cool. I've got them up as well. So in the Saturday early game, Leicester, this is March 15th, so we got the week off coming up. But Leicester hosting Arsenal.
Arsenal.
Took you a second there.
Sorry, I
thought it would be automatic.
There's a game on Friday that I saw. Chelsea plays Brighton.
Oh shit, you're right.
On Friday, the day before.
Okay,
so I was
sorry.
looking at that, and then you said Leicester versus Arsenal, and my brain took a second to compute.
Okay. I was dang, I thought it'd be more automatic. Okay, we'll start there. Okay, Brighton versus Chelsea. Brighton hosting Chelsea.
I'm gonna go Chelsea because Brighton's been struggling.
Okay, Leicester hosting Arsenal.
Give me Arsenal.
Villa hosting Ipswich.
Villa, and I'm going to go Marcus Rashford scores his opening goal for the club.
Nice.
That's my bonus with prediction for that game.
Doing a celebration.
Oh, yeah. I got the kid on right now. You can't tell.
Fulham hosting Nottingham Forest.
Ooh. I'm actually going to go draw here. I know Forest just put up such a good performance, but I'm going to go draw.
I like that pick. City hosting Newcastle.
I think it depends how Newcastle does in the cup against Liverpool, but I'm going to go City.
Southampton hosting Bournemouth.
Bournemouth.
West Ham hosting Brentford.
I'm going to go draw.
Crystal Palace hosting Everton.
I really want to see how Everton play against Liverpool before that game to really make a definitive answer, but for the sake of our game, I am going to go another draw.
Liverpool hosting Wolves.
Liverpool.
And then Tottenham hosting your United.
Ooh.
Big game.
I'm actually going to go United. And the reasoning I'm going to cite is because I'm a blind fan, but also Spurs are a team that are going to want to play on the front foot, and they also are going to be at home. The onus is going to be on them to attack, and I think that's when we play our best is when we're playing against teams like that. So I'm going to go United.
That is what you said at the beginning of the pod, so your theory will be put to the test.
Exactly.
Are we going to run back a stream, get Bailey on to, because I think that's the first live stream we did.
You're right. We do got to get it back.
So Sunday, 11:30 is a good time slot. We look into that.
That's a great time slot. I told Wells I might go watch that game at Fido's, but if we can set up a live stream, I think I'd rather do that. So we'll see. All right. That's it for my picks. Let's run it back to you. So starting from the top, on Friday, we have Brighton hosting Chelsea.
Chelsea.
Okay. And then we got Leicester hosting your Arsenal.
Arsenal, easy.
Nice. Then we got Aston Villa at home versus Ipswich.
Villa.
Okay. We got Fulham hosting Nottingham Forest.
I'm going to go with the draw with you. I really like that pick just because Fulham are home. Two really good defenses. I like the draw.
Nice. Next, we got Manchester City at home to Newcastle.
This one I'm going to differ from you. I like Newcastle here.
Okay.
Even though they haven't been great. I guess Fulham just beat them. But I just don't believe in City and Isak. I think it comes down to the midfield again. I think Newcastle have a really strong midfield, and City's is weak.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Then we have Southampton at home to Bournemouth.
Bournemouth.
Okay. West Ham at home to Brentford.
This one's so tough. Because West Ham, it really depends if Ferguson, he's fit, right? I'm going to go with West Ham at home.
Okay.
I'm just worried that they're not going to be able to score too much. But, I'm going to go to West Ham.
Yeah, by that point, they would have had a little bit more time on the training ground. They're going to be able to get Evan Ferguson up to speed a bit more. Potter will have had more time with the team. Hopefully they're performing better versus Brentford. I don't see much changing for them between now and then. So I don't mind the West Ham pick.
Yeah.
And then we got Crystal Palace hosting Everton.
I'm going to go with Crystal Palace here.
Nice. I think that's a solid pick as well. I was really conflicted on this one. Liverpool hosting Wolves.
Liverpool.
Okay, and then last game is Spurs versus United. Bottom of the table, or battle at the bottom of the table.
Yeah, you're right. I've only picked one draw, I think, so I'm leaning towards draw or Tottenham. I'm going to go draw. So my main reason is I only picked one draw so far. And I do think it's a pretty even. I do think it's a pretty even game. I think it's going to be hard to call. So yeah, draw.
Nice. All right. I like that. I hope United wins, but I do think that's probably a smarter pick is draw or Spurs, to be honest, but we'll see.
That was one of, when you're doing a Scantron test and you haven't picked C or D for a while, you just go with D just because. That was basically why I went with draw.
Oh, pure balance. I like that. Gotcha. All right. Well, that's it for the pick'em rounds. We got a little bit of time before then. We've got 11 days before the Chelsea match and then 12 before the rest of the matches. But we will circle back and let you guys know how we did on the pod following that week.
Hope I can
And
make up some
then,
ground and catch you.
yeah, I'm up by 4 picks right now.
4 picks, yeah.
And then I can't remember what we each chose for Liverpool versus Everton. I'm assuming you chose Liverpool. I think I chose draw, maybe.
I'm
I think
assuming
about it.
I chose Liverpool. I can't remember.
Yeah. Either way, we'll go. We'll see how it goes and circle back. And then let's just finish off this episode with a little bit of FPL talk. This was, as we mentioned at the beginning of our pick'em section, it was a huge week for FPL with the double game week 25 being announced. I think, like I mentioned before, with that being announced, it really threw off a lot of people's plans. A lot of people made early transfers trying to avoid some price drops with João Pedro, trying to get him out of the team and trying to catch price raises on Gakpo and try and triple up on Liverpool. So it was a big, big week FPL-wise and a chance for a lot of people to either make up a lot of ground or lose a lot of ground. Right now, I think it's too hard to tell how it turned out for everyone because it looks good for pretty much anyone because the big three routes that people were going were either triple captain Salah, assistant manager Moyes, or assistant manager Slot. And I think it just turned out pretty good for everyone. I think next week will be the big defining factor because we got to see how Liverpool performs in the Carabao Cup. If they can turn that tie around against Tottenham, who are up against them 1-0 on aggregate, they'll get that double game week 25, which will probably look pretty good for slot managers or slot owners. But if not, it really opens things up, and I'm interested to see how it goes. But what were your thoughts on FPL this week? How did it look for your team?
Good, having a really solid week. I took out João Pedro for NGI early in the week before João Pedro's price drop. So that was like before I knew any of like the game week 25 stuff happening and everyone going to be playing the assistant manager. So I did that move early, which paid off with Njai super late goal, but that was electric. And I went with David Moyes, the assistant manager, because like I mentioned earlier in the pod, I just had the right money for him and I was tripled up on Liverpool. So I only made one transfer. I had 4 coming into the week, and so I going with 4 going into next week, which I think is even more important for myself. So it just made a lot of sense. And Everton killed it against Leicester. I didn't like Liverpool had some tough fixtures. I was gonna play the triple captain on Salah until the game week 25 got announced. I know in the last pod I said I didn't like triple captain Salah, but after we reasoned through it for like 2 seconds on the pod, all it takes is Mo to get a return in each game, and that's an 18-pointer, which is equivalent of a triple return in a single game week. So it made tons of sense. But yeah, I went assistant manager with Moyes just because I liked the 3-game week, having an assistant manager for 2 double game weeks in a row because it is the most powerful chip. And really happy. I liked that Everton had Leicester, and then they have a table bonus game. Granted, it is against the best team in the league, but Everton overperformed and really did better than expected in the first game against Leicester, so I'm happy with how it went. I'm currently on 93 points, up to 4th place in the mini league. I think up like 3 spots maybe in the mini league, and currently on a nice 90k green arrow. So a lot could change with the Liverpool versus Everton game next midweek, but really happy with how everything's gone so far.
Yeah, super solid week from your team. I think you made the right calls pretty much across the board, and it's awesome to have 4 transfers going into next week to really be able to attack those doubles. And if you got to transfer a manager out in order to bring in a new manager, like it seems like you got a lot of wiggle room. So good on you.
Yeah, I would. Low-key, I hope Trent is flagged and he might be injured. I low-key hope he's injured. That way I can just force to transfer him out to a different defender. Then it'll open up money and a Liverpool spot to go for slot if Liverpool get the double win in the whatever cup they're in and get the double. That's like what I would like to do. Then I got a couple other moves kind of planned. But honestly, gotta wait till everything shakes out.
Yeah. I gotcha. Let's see. You have any more thoughts on your team?
No, I'll toss over to you.
Yeah. So I'm looking at my team. I, going into this week, made a lot of early transfers. I'm I was kind of concerned about my team value. I just feel like I kept getting priced out of moves that I wanted to make. So I decided to go early. So I went early at first and made 2 transfers, had one in the bank. And my transfers were João Pedro to Njai to attack the double game week. And then I transferred Mateta out to Gakpo to get another Liverpool doubler in the team. And then, unfortunately, we got hit with the double game week 25 news, and that completely changed my plans because I was tripled up on Liverpool. I couldn't go to Slot, who seemed like the obvious choice if you weren't already tripled up on Liverpool. But I would have had to take a hit to get Slot into my team because I would have had to transfer Gakpo out, which would have been my last free transfer. But then I would have had to free up money to bring in Slot, so I would have had to make multiple transfers. I basically would have had to take a -8 to bring Slot in. So I said, okay, I can't really do that. Let me go with the upside move of Moyes. But I still had to free up money to get to him, so I still had to take a hit anyway. I took a -4 to bring in David Moyes. And the player that I transferred out was Gabriel. I transferred Gabriel out of my squad and brought in Howson from Bournemouth to be another defender. He's a cheap option. Their fixtures look really good moving forward. I was between him or Kirkez, but I decided just to give myself a little bit more wiggle room with going for the cheaper option and Howson, who seems to be better for bonus points, but Kirkez is better for the attacking returns. So that was my rationale there. Just to give myself a little bit more flexibility because I know there's going to be a lot of movements between basically game week 25, depending on what happens, and game week 29, which is when the next major blank is. So that's kind of been my reasoning. In hindsight, it looks like my team struggled. Like my moves are overall a net -7, just because Mateta got that brace. So that hurt, and then I left Munoz on my bench over Robinson, which hurt me as well. That's like a 7-point difference there. I think I feel good about my moves, like just the thought behind my moves, but at the same time, sometimes you just get burned. And I still managed to get a green arrow, even though just barely. It's a 26K green arrow, 2%, but green arrow is a green arrow. We're still moving in the right direction. And I am optimistic that I can still continue to go up, obviously, with Liverpool, with one more game to play for my doublers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that -7 will likely, will definitely get smaller because you got Gakpo.
Exactly.
So he could flip that himself and make that a net positive for this game week.
Yeah, exactly. So not too down on myself for the week. I am really curious to see what I do moving forward. Like I said, I left a little bit of more cash in the bank in case I need to next week go to what I'm really hoping for is to make up money or make up ground on some of these guys that went on a slot or solid triple captain is for Liverpool to lose against Spurs. Liverpool to have a bad showing against Everton, so Everton get the table bonus points against Liverpool. But then also for Liverpool to lose against Spurs so that they don't get the double in 25, so that all the slot people that went with the assistant manager on slot also have to make transfers out to get to another doubler. I'm hoping that'll really be a move that works out for me in the long run. But we'll see. Still too much to happen in between there to really see how that's going to pan out. But that is what I'm crossing my fingers for right now.
I like your optimistic hopefulness. With Liverpool losing or drawing to Everton and Spurs.
I mean, that was my pure. I was like, I'm chasing straight upside with my moves. It was like how I rationalized my moves because I was like, I could just eat the -8 for slot because if they get the double and I got to move to slot anyway, it's going to cost me a transfer down the line, so I might as well just move it up. So when I went with Moyes, I was like, I really just got to hope on Liverpool's downfall for the next 10 days.
That's fair. I mean, and granted, I'm definitely hoping for Liverpool's downfall, both in real life, just for the league and because I got Moyes as well. That would be so huge for us if Everton get any type of result, either a draw or a win against Liverpool. Just for Moyes versus Slot would be a huge swing.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm definitely praying to the football gods. Do something for me. All right. I'm a big passion merchant. Like I said, it's the last game at Goodison Park. I feel like Everton always plays Liverpool pretty strong in the derbies. I feel like if there's any game for them to do it, it'll be this one.
Wait,
So
this
we'll
is the
see.
last game at Goodison Park?
Or
Before...
sorry, not last game, but the last Merseyside derby
Oh,
at
okay,
Goodison
okay.
Park.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I know you mentioned that earlier in the pod. I got a little distracted because we were thinking about the stadium name. But yeah, that's actually, yeah. I like the storyline there.
hmm So like I feel like it's chasing upside, but at the same time, like you said, like if there's any game for Everton to be able to do it, they're also playing really well as a team. Like Moyes is playing. Moyes is also like a storied manager. He was manager at Everton for like 10 years or something like that. I just feel like the storylines at least behind Everton here to like go
Mm-hmm.
off and do something nice. And then I know we're hoping that Liverpool don't beat Spurs, yeah, that Liverpool don't beat Spurs, but Spurs do have a 1 goal advantage and they are getting healthier. It seems like they're saving their players for that game against Liverpool.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping they look a little bit more competent than they have with them getting players back as well.
Yeah, I mean, I already consider the Moyes chip a success so far. Like for this week only, we're playing the system manager this week on Moyes, already a success given 12 points. And the fact that both have NGI and Moyes, it was awesome. Just like being in the FPL Discord, everyone was loving like the Moyes train.
Nice.
So it was super fun. This is why I love to play the game, is for like little moments like this. So if
Yeah.
Everton do get a result against Liverpool, it'll be so fun. Just scenes.
I might
Because
think
it
of an Everton jersey.
Yeah, because it is like so head to head. Like it's just not just team, but like manager versus manager is something you can still like have a player go off and like lose a game, but since it's just like manager against manager, like the only other like, double game week game is so head to head, which just makes it so exciting and cool.
Yeah, definitely a really cool moment for FPL, with just like a new chip and people trying to figure out how to play the game. I have seen, I guess, have you seen these debates where people don't want the chip to be included next season? Like they think it's almost like too powerful. Have you seen any of that discourse?
I know it is just like super powerful. The fact that it is over 3 weeks, like the upside, like the range is so crazy. I haven't seen too much chatter on people being like that upset with it or like not wanting it next season. I think it's too early to say, but it is going to be such a huge swing, especially when people are using it at the end of the season. It's going to like completely shift games. Like someone could have a crazy like win the whole thing using the assistant manager trip out of nowhere on some insane pick.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just
I'm really
like,
interested to see how it
it's
plays
gonna be
out.
chaos at the end of the season if like any mini leagues are tight and people still have the assistant manager because like I said the range is so wide and what you can do with it. That's like
Yeah.
why that's why I didn't originally. Our original plan was to play it in game week 36 over 36, 37, 38. That way you could really tailor it to your risk and what you need. But this just seemed like too good of an opportunity getting 2 double game weeks with it. But yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see at the end of the season whether it's a hit or not. To really say.
Yeah. I'm honestly interested to see, like, yeah, for the people that went triple captain this week who haven't used, or I guess no one's used their assistant manager chip before this week. I'm really interested to see what people end up going with, and what fixtures they try and target and that kind of stuff. That is a really cool aspect that you mentioned that I'd thought about a little bit but hadn't thought about too hard, is like at the end of the season, if you really just want to go for it all, like you start targeting those bonus fixtures and like see what kind of upsets you can get.
Yeah, and like the other part about that is like so many teams are on the beach at that point, like in the middle
Exactly.
of the table, don't care. So you target one of those for like a bottom half team or like a relegation team that fight for their lives. And that's like a prime fixture to target. So
Really great point.
I really like that aspect, like playing it late to really play like the field on what's happening in real life. But like I said, having 2 double game weeks to use the chip seemed like the best move.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. Well, we will see how these games play out. You got anything else FPL wise you want to chat about?
Just one more point. I know you mentioned that like you say your team value doesn't feel that good, and I was just doing a quick little search against other people in our league, and you like have like the third highest team value. Like I'm at
Really?
I'm at 105.2 million. Looks like Connor is at 105.1, and you're at 104.2. So like I haven't seen
Okay.
anyone in the thing higher than yours. So take it for what it's
Wow.
worth. I don't know if that'll like change your kind of outlook at all, but you do have a good team
Yeah.
value.
Okay. I'll take that. I just feel like maybe I just felt like I didn't because I haven't really compared to anyone in our mini league, but I just felt like I kept looking at these moves that I want to make and felt like priced out of like certain players literally just by like point 0.1 or point 0.2. Like there's a chance for me to get Gakpo early on, but I got priced out, and then Wood, and then like a couple other players. So like I kind of felt like I've been chasing some team value, but it also is probably because I'm stuff like that have like really good teams and like basically are sitting like way higher than I am. Not way higher in terms of team value, but just
Yeah.
I look at some of the teams they have and I'm like, we have the exact same team except you have one player off, and that one player is like more expensive than the player that I have. Like I just don't understand that I have 3 points and stuff like that on certain
Yeah.
players.
Yeah. Yeah, but just thought I'd let you know that in case I like change your outlook.
Yeah, I appreciate you letting me know. Actually, it's something I never really compared, or haven't. At least I haven't done that since like October, or like really early on in the season.
It's something I've never paid attention to in previous seasons, but I just happen to have good team value this season. So it's been something I've been kind of enjoying keeping up with, just because it's been a positive for me in general, just because I kind
Yeah.
of hit the right players with my wild card and went early on some like Newcastle players in particular. But yeah, I usually don't
Yeah.
really pay attention to it too much.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go back to not paying attention to it too much, just because I feel like this season more than others, I've been not that moving early has really burned me too bad. Like this was the first week that I feel like it really could have burned me for moving early, trying to attack the Liverpool triple ups and stuff like that, and then getting this news. But I'm assuming we're not going to get news like this that like changes your plans completely often. But uh, I think I don't want to just be making moves early without information just for the sake of like getting point 0.1 or point 0.2 anymore.
Yeah, that's kind of been my general approach. Is usually not worth it. It's better
Yeah.
to wait on the information, especially when there's like Champions League stuff coming, like with potential injuries, etc.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Well, I'm hoping, like I said, Everton do something for me, please, so I can finish up this week strong. But overall, pretty good week of FPL, and I hope I can kind of keep climbing here. As far as my mini league position, I'm sitting at 12th right now, 15 points behind 11th. But I'm trying to catch up to that pack. I'm trying to basically get into like break into the top 10, kind of pass Zeus in that number 9 position. I feel like those are the people. Zeus is a little bit. Oh no, yeah, Zeus. I'm trying to pass Zeus in that 9 position. He's like 30 points ahead of me, but I've got the assistant manager chip, so I can make up a lot of ground on some of these guys that are ahead of me, I think. So I'm hoping to get closer to that 1500 mark and then start trying to make up some ground on everybody else, and hopefully shoot for like a top, like at least get to a round where like Ben and Riley are. And like try and catch up to that group of people in the mini league for those that aren't in our mini league. That's like 5 and 6. So we'll see.
Nice, sounds like a good plan, and then kind of reassess and, like you said, target how you want to finish the season from there.
Yeah, like I definitely won't make up that ground in 1 week, but I think if I can continue to have like 2-3 weeks in a row that have gone the way that they have, I think I'll get back up there eventually.
Yeah, there's plenty of time to make up ground. I remember like last year I was having a terrible season, and it wasn't until like around like this point of the year, but I really turned it on and I had to like finish second or something somehow.
Gotcha. You got anything else FPL to keep in mind?
No, just like super fun times right now in FPL with all the chips going. It's a bummer we got the weekend off, but I'm honestly kind of like glad. Go to New York City for the weekend just kind of cause, and so it's kind of nice not to have like fantasy soccer to worry about. Just kind of like enjoy myself for the weekend.
Nice.
So usually hate it having the weekend off, but kind of looking forward to it this weekend.
Nice. That'll be awesome. I'm
Yeah.
about to go to New York here in a few weeks as well.
Nice. Yeah, no, nothing else
Gotcha.
FPL was.
All right. Well, that's all we have for the pod then. We've been going for a while.
Yeah, it was a long one.
Like a really long pod. This is like pushing 2 hours, which I guess we just had a lot of good stuff to talk about. I guess January transfer window only comes around once a season.
Yeah.
A lot to talk about FPL wise as well. And then there's some exciting stuff in the league. So overall, a great week for the Premier League, for football in general. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. Still more big stuff to come. We've got Carabao Cup and FA Cup coming up within the next week as well, like I mentioned, and then some big matchups after that. So definitely stay up to date. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, and then also check me out at Coach Talks Ball on Instagram and TikTok. You got anything else for us, Spain, to sign us off?
Yeah, that was a really fun pod. Like I said, it was long, but lots to talk about. Really fun to talk about Arsenal, and because I was a huge one to get City. So that was electric, such a fun time. FPL was fun, so just overall really fun time in terms of soccer, and it was great beating City, and they just enjoy staying humble.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. All right, for all you guys watching, remember to stay humble, and we will catch you in the next